Hello, hello. They said we're not supposed to do that because it makes people like turn away, but say hi. Say hi. Okay, I'm gonna talk about what I didn't expect after going no contact. My name is Kaya. I am a former child and family therapist, and I am currently no contact with my family, which includes my parents and most of my siblings. It's only been maybe like a year and a half almost at this point, but we've been on our way here for quite some time. So I just wanted to share some of the things that I didn't expect, because I do see a lot more people going this direction, and it's really hard. And so I hope that by me sharing what you might experience, obviously we all experience it in different ways, but I hope that this helps you to kind of be a little bit more like, I can never tell you what it's going to be like for you, but I can tell you what I experienced and what you might experience at the same time, and how I worked to manage it. Okay. So the first is the loneliness. Okay. And not just from being no contact with them, but I also lost other people around the same time. Not because I went no contact, but once you set that standard and you set those boundaries, you just don't accept bullshit from other people no more. So it's kind of like, well, damn, like I really liked you or I really cared about you, but I just can't accept that for my life anymore. So you gotta go, or I gotta create some distance. When you stop accepting those things from so many other people, it's like you kind of end up by yourself for a little bit, especially because, like, as I've grown, the caliber of people that I have interacted with has changed so much. Like, I can tell my growth by the people that I am surrounding myself with. I can tell my growth by the people who are naturally being drawn to me at this point, and how I am also setting boundaries with those other people. So not long before I went no contact, I went no contact with my best friend. And that was really hard. Like we had been best friends for maybe like 10 years, and I loved her. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you, I was in love with her at some point, and I couldn't do it anymore. Like then I moved away. So that already kind of created a lot of distance from the people that I was used to be able to go to and lean on. So I moved states, and not all of those, we just don't talk anymore. Some of us do, but it's different when you're used to like seeing people here or there, and so you connect. And I didn't have any of that. When I moved to South Carolina, I only had my family, and that was it. Like I didn't know nobody else, and it's only like 6 of them. Like that was it. That was my whole support system. However, the way that I expected that support system to show up was not how it showed up. So I spent a lot of time being very lonely. I also broke up with my boyfriend at the time, not long after I got no contact. That was pretty devastating because, we had talked about all these things. We talked about the hurt that I experienced. And so now leaving this person when I felt like he was really the only one. And then I was telling him how my family wasn't necessarily showing up in the way that I needed. It was kind of like, well, damn, like, why would you do this to me when But please remember that when God starts removing people out of your life like that, it is definitely because they are supposed to be gone. Okay. So please don't hold so tight because it is on purpose and it is for your best interest. So the loneliness that I experienced a lot of time by myself, crying, being upset, like, I felt like I was by myself. And again, like I said, when certain people are treating you the same way that you just walked away from, it's like, why would we like keep that connection? You know what I mean? Like I survived that already. I'm not going back. The other thing was missing them. You would think that when someone hurts you, you wouldn't miss them. It's like, damn, like, what is wrong with you? Especially when you're to the point of not wanting to ever, I'm not going to say not wanting to, but choosing to not speak to them ever again. Like, you would think that it'd just be like, done, gone, doesn't matter, but that's just not the fact. And it's not how it happens. I had time of missing them. And plus, you have kind of like your own routines that include those people, even if it's not consistent, right? So me and my dad, we did not really talk. We didn't really have intimate conversations or important conversations or whatever. He wasn't texting me to check on me or any of that, but I still would see him in different spaces, or he would send like some random text that he copy and paste to the rest of my siblings, or, you know, whatever. But to not even have that anymore is kind of like, well, damn, you know? And sometimes you think about, do I want to go back? Do I want to, like, maybe I'm tripping, you know? Because if I go back, I don't have to miss them anymore. I don't have to, because they're right there. Like, I'm bringing that back into my life. But is that really what you want to do? No. So I didn't expect to have those moments of missing them. I've talked on my page about how I miss my sisters, but again, I'm not putting up with the same shit anymore. Even though you may not always go to them for advice or for support, or that when you go to them for advice or support, they don't give it to you in the way that you need. It's kind of like, well, who else am I supposed to go to? Especially as your parents, like, you're supposed to be able to. But when you can't, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? So there's definitely been moments of missing them. When I came here, it was, I went NoContact, and then my Mother's Day was like shortly after. So it was my second Mother's Day without my granny. My granny had passed away. So it wasn't just, I didn't see her or whatever. It wasn't like I could call her and tell her happy Mother's Day. So grieving from that, but also the first one without my mother that I hadn't spoken to her. And then not having the support of that from the other people that were around me. I spent Mother's Day by myself because it was like, oh, we're going to go to dinner, but we're going to go to a place that Kaya doesn't eat. Like, and she's just going to be at home by herself with nothing. So that was really hard. Because you just, again, lonely and wanting to still have connection, because it's like, it was just those people that I needed to cut off. It wasn't everybody. Not having that support. These people didn't understand. They haven't experienced what that grief is like, or know what it's like to go through an experience like that. Just, you know, have struggles. Having to go through that by yourself and missing them, but knowing that I can go back, but it's not really what I want to do, because it's not the best thing for my mental health, right? I would say that was probably the hardest with my mom, because we would have times where we were closer, but when I would be like, okay, yes, this feels good, like, let's keep doing this, let's keep going in this direction, and she wouldn't. And I would just get hurt and disappointed over and over and over again. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, it is what it is. And you kind of just got to do what you got to do. The next is the identity crisis. So parenting is programming. Parenting teaches us how to think, how to be, how to exist in the world. They teach us all kinds of messages. And when you separate yourself from that and try to identify, well, who am I? Who am I without them telling me who I am? Who am I truly? Who was I born and created to be? And trying to weed through that and decipher, like, what was them trying to control me? What was manipulation? What was gaslighting? What was coming from their own fears, their own anxieties, their own traumas, versus where I needed to be. So a lot of times it's like, oh my God, like, I feel crazy trying to decipher between these. And plus, like, the way that they are or how they operate in certain spaces, I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be those judgmental people or, think in the same way as them. But then it's like, but what was true? What were the messages and lessons that I did need to hold on to versus the ones that I need to let go of? And of course, they don't sit you down and say, be judgmental of people. Like, that was never the lesson. But it would be like, okay, well, don't bring anyone home that has dreads or tattoos, or the way that they would treat other people. Like when people would bring their significant others to meet the family, then they would be very judgmental towards them. And it was kind of like, that's just how you learn to be, because parents want to believe so much that you only learn to be the way that they tell you with their mouth, when no, we learned how to do that by watching your actions. And when you've been in that for 18 plus years most of the time, and now you're trying to break free of that, for me, over 30 years, it is very hard. It can be very discombobulating. It can be very challenging to see who you are. And that's why I created the Finding Your Magik journal, because I was like, who am I? What do I believe? Like, am I really this version of who they have taught me that I am? Or is that their own projection of themselves, right? Their own hatred of themselves, or their own frustration that they can't be free, that they can't live life in the way that they want to because they're still confined to this box. Does that make sense? And growing up in church, that definitely was even harder, because, that's a whole other like mental game that you have to survive. So, what did I do to fix these things? One, I had to focus on why I did it. Why did I separate myself from them? And that was one, to fix my mental health. And to get stronger in who I was and to live a different life. I already know that I'm a cycle breaker, right? And it's really, really hard to break cycles when you are staying in the midst of the cycle. So that's why, because I was self-sabotaging. I was being really hard on myself. I look back on how successful I actually was when I first started my business, and I'm like, damn, I was doing a lot. Like, I was getting awards and everything. And I quit because my parents weren't showing up the way that I thought that they would, because they weren't saying, Kai, you're doing well enough. So sometimes you just have to separate yourself from what is blocking you, separate yourself from what is distracting you, so that you can see clearly and get what God has for you. The loneliness, I also recognized that God had me there for a reason. God was protecting me. I didn't need to be everywhere with everybody. I needed to be where I could hear God's voice, where I could hear what I needed to hear for my own growth and elevation. I didn't need to be around mindsets that were going to take me backwards to where I fought so hard to get out of. So I learned to accept it, and I started doing other things, meeting other people, because otherwise I was just looking at the same six walls. And so it helped me to start getting out of the house. Being stuck in the house, like when they say, what is it called? Cabin fever? That is miserable as hell. Like, y'all know what it was like during COVID. So, yeah, that was just insane. So I had to start meeting other people, meeting new friends, because I was going crazy. Like, everything was about healing, grieving, all that. I was like, I need to have some fun. I need to see some different trees other than what's in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? So I joined Tinder so that I could start meeting other people, going on dates, getting other people in my circle, because as I said, I only had this small group. So, understanding when the loneliness that I felt was actually me being needing to be in solitary, and then okay, well, what other ways can I resolve this so that it's not driving me crazy? As far as missing them, sometimes I'll write in my journal and express how much I miss them. For the most part, I just had to remind myself of why I left again. Like, girl, why would we miss that? Like, and there are parts that I still miss, that just is what it is. But um you can't, when you get caught up in like, oh, but I had this and I had this and I had this. Yeah, girl, but you were miserable. Like, you was depressed, you was anxious, didn't have the mental health support in the community that you needed. So yeah, no, we're not going back. You made it this far, so let's just keep going. And then reaching out to other people who were supportive, people from back home or whatever that I had seen or talked to, and tried to just invest as much as I could into healthy relationships, um, so that it wasn't so hard. Okay. As far as the identity crisis, I did a lot of journaling and really being honest with myself in my journal. And then I created Finding Your Magik and just asked questions that I sought and things that I had. Like, I had to start from the very beginning. Like, what are your favorite foods? Is your favorite food still pizza, or is that just what you've been saying so long that that's just your go-to answer? How do you like to show up for your friends? What do you do to set boundaries? Um, what do you believe for yourself and for your life? What are challenging things that you've gone through and how has it changed you? Things like that. So that was really helpful as well. Um, and getting to know like who I was as a child. Like, it's sometimes painful to go back to certain memories, but you kind of like, I would rather not think about a lot of the things that happened in my childhood, but going back there also helped me to remember, oh yeah, that is who I always was. Oh yeah, I've been saying that parents treat their kids like shit since I was like 6. And like, I didn't understand why they would treat their kids like this. When you are saying that you love me, but this is what you're doing to me. And getting back to the heart of those parts of me, right? And reconnecting with that version of me. Those were some of the things that were most helpful. If you're still here, definitely make sure that you follow me. I'm going to share more information as well as to heal from the things that your parents have done, the things that have happened in your childhood, how to get over childhood trauma, because it is possible for you to live differently. Like, it does not have to hold you back forever. It doesn't have to hold you in the same space. I was just talking this morning on my Instagram story, like how much peace I wake up with now, and that even though things don't look exactly the way that I would like them to at all, really, but I feel so good about what I'm doing, how I'm showing up, the work that I've done on myself, and where I'm going, and what God has promised me, that the other shit don't even matter. So when you recognize that, you get to wake up happy and peaceful and joyful and live your life like you know what God is doing in it, okay? Thank you guys so much for joining and for staying and for giving likes to the video. Definitely follow me and turn on notifications for when I go live again. Follow me on Instagram. I do have a guide for going NoContact, and it's just like a support for you. It's a workbook really for you to identify like what are some of your feelings that you're experiencing. How are you feeling during this whole process? Because that definitely changes throughout the time. What hurts the most? What feels the best? And setting boundaries when you have people come and say stupid shit to you like, oh, but that's your mom, that's your dad. And you're like, girl, what? Like, how do you want to respond to those kinds of things? Because you will definitely get those kinds of comments and questions. And so I gave you some examples on how you can respond. I also did a whole chunk of those on Instagram that you could have some ready answers for when people question your boundaries. But I want you to remember that this is about you. This is about your healing. This is about what you need for yourself. It is not about anybody else. And it's not to hurt other people. It is not to make them feel bad. But sometimes we got to take care of ourselves instead of sacrificing ourselves for other people all the time. Um, and so stay focused on that. The choosing peace, like no contact guide, is available at the link in my bio. Grab that and sign up for the emails because I do also have a bigger piece of the puzzle coming soon. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.